The fountain in front of the Caldwell mansion sparkled like diamonds in the afternoon sun. Water danced and splashed, making pretty sounds that most people love to hear. But inside the big house, there was a boy who had never heard those sounds. Not once in his whole life. Noah Caldwell sat by the window, watching the water move. He was 7 years old, with messy brown hair and sad eyes. His father, Ethan Caldwell, was one of the richest men in the city. Their house had 15 bedrooms, a swimming pool, and cars that cost more than most people's homes. But all that money couldn't buy the one thing Noah wanted most. He wanted to hear. Ethan stood behind his son, watching him watch the fountain. His heart felt heavy, like a stone in his chest. They had been to 23 doctors. 23. Each one had poked Noah's ears, done tests, and shaken their heads sadly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell," they always said. "Your son's condition is very rare, very complicated. He'll need treatment for many, many years, maybe his whole life." Every week, Noah went to the hospital. Every week, doctors did the same tests. Every week, nothing changed. Ethan paid them thousands and thousands of dollars, but Noah stayed silent in his quiet world. "Sir," the butler's voice made Ethan turn around. "There's a situation at the front gate." Ethan frowned. "What kind of situation?" "A girl, sir. She's trying to sell things to the security guards. Flowers and little toys. They've asked her to leave 3 times, but she won't go." Ethan felt angry, then called the police. "She says she needs to see Noah, sir. She says it's important." Something about those words made Ethan pause. How did some random girl know his son's name? He walked to the window and looked down at the front gate. There she was. A girl about Noah's age, maybe a little older. Her dress was torn and dirty. Her feet were bare and dusty. She carried a wooden tray with wilted flowers and broken toys that nobody would want to buy. But it was her face that caught Ethan's attention. She wasn't begging or crying like other poor children who sometimes came to the gate. She was staring straight up at Noah's window with fierce, determined eyes, like she could see right through the glass, right through the walls, right into their lives. "Let her in," Ethan said quietly. The butler's eyes went wide. "Sir, you heard me. Bring her to the courtyard." 5 minutes later, Ethan and Noah stood by the fountain. The girl walked toward them, her dirty feet leaving small prints on the perfect white marble. The security guards watched her nervously, but she didn't seem scared at all. Up close, Ethan could see that her dress used to be blue, but now it was gray from dirt and time. Her black hair was tangled, but her eyes were sharp and knowing, like an old person trapped in a child's body. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. "How do you know my son?" The girl didn't answer him. Instead, she walked straight to Noah and knelt down in front of him. Noah couldn't hear her coming, but he felt something. He turned and looked at her. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then the girl did something strange. She lifted her hand and pointed at Noah's ear. Then she pointed at her own eyes. Then back at his ear again. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked, stepping forward. "Don't touch him." But the girl ignored him completely. She was focused only on Noah. She pointed at his ear one more time, then made a pulling motion with her fingers, like she was taking something out. Noah's eyes went wide. Slowly, carefully, he nodded. "No," Ethan said firmly. "Absolutely not. Guards, escort this girl." But Noah grabbed his father's hand. His little fingers squeezed tight. In his silent way, he was saying, "Wait, please." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Noah never asked for anything, never reached out, never showed what he wanted. But now, "Fine, Ethan whispered, but if you hurt him." "I won't," the girl said. Her voice was quiet but strong. "I'm going to help him." She reached toward Noah's right ear. Her small, dirty fingers moved gently, so gently, like she was touching something precious and fragile. Noah didn't pull away. He sat perfectly still, trusting the strange girl with bare feet. The girl's fingertips touched the edge of Noah's ear. Then, slowly, she pushed her finger inside. "Stop," Ethan shouted. "Were you?" But then he saw it. The girl was pulling something out. something small and dark. It came out slowly, like a splinter being removed from skin. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. This was impossible. The doctors had looked in Noah's ears 100 times. There was nothing there. Nothing. The girl's hand came away from Noah's ear. In her palm was a tiny, blackened thing. It looked like a seed or a small pebble, but it seemed to pulse with a weird, sick energy. "What is that?" Ethan breathed. The girl didn't answer. She reached toward Noah's left ear and did the same thing. Another tiny black thing came out, joining the first one in her palm. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Noah gasped. It was a sound Ethan had never heard before. A sharp, sudden intake of breath that meant Noah had heard something. Something real. The fountain splash. A bird singing. The wind in the trees. Sound. Noah's hands flew to his ears. His mouth opened wide. Tears started rolling down his cheeks. His whole body was shaking. And then, for the first time in 7 years, Noah Caldwell spoke. "Dad," he whispered. His voice was small and rough from never being used. But it was there. Real. True. "Dad, I can hear you." Ethan fell to his knees. The richest man in the city, who never cried, who never showed weakness, was suddenly sobbing like a child. He pulled Noah into his arms and held him so tight. "How?" he choked out, looking at the girl. "How is this possible?" The girl stood up slowly. She looked at the 2 black things in her hand with disgust, then threw them on the ground and crushed them under her bare foot. "You didn't look close enough," she said simply. "Nobody did." "But the doctors," Ethan started. "The doctors lied," the girl interrupted. Her voice was hard now. Cold. "They've been lying to you for years, Mr. Caldwell, and you paid them to keep lying." The words hit Ethan like a slap. "What are you talking about?" The girl's eyes burned with anger and sadness mixed together. "Your son was never sick." "Not really. Someone made sure he stayed quiet. Someone who got rich every time you paid for another test, another therapy session, another year of silence." Ethan's world tilted sideways. His mind raced back through all the appointments, all the bills, all the sad doctor faces telling him there was no cure. "That's impossible," he whispered. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't. Deep down, he knew. Noah was still crying, pressing his hands to his ears, listening to every tiny sound like it was music. "Who are you?" Ethan asked the girl again. "Why did you come here?" The girl picked up her tray of worthless flowers and broken toys. "My name is Maya," she said, "and I came because nobody else would tell you the truth." She turned to walk away, her dirty feet silent on the marble. "Wait!" Ethan called. "Please, I need to understand. I need to know everything." Maya stopped. She looked back over her shoulder, and Ethan saw tears in her fierce eyes, too. "Then take your son to the hospital," she said quietly. "Ask them to explain. But this time, Mr. Caldwell, don't just listen to what they say. Look at what they do. Look at the papers they don't want you to see." "How do you know all this?" Ethan demanded. Maya's voice broke just a little. "Because they did the same thing to my brother. But my family couldn't pay. So they let him stay deaf forever." And with that, she walked through the gate and disappeared into the city streets. Ethan looked down at Noah, who was touching everything, listening to every sound his fingers made. His son, his beautiful, hearing son. But Maya's words echoed in his mind. "They did the same thing to my brother." How many others? How many children were trapped in silence because of lies and greed? Ethan stood up, his sadness transforming into something else. Something fierce and burning. Anger. "Come on, Noah," he said, taking his son's hand. "We're going to the hospital. Right now. And we're going to get some answers." Noah looked up at his father. And for the first time ever, he heard his father's voice say his name. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. But somewhere in the city, in a dark office in that hospital, someone was about to have a very bad day, because Ethan Caldwell had just discovered that his money had been buying lies, and now he was going to use that money to buy the truth, no matter what it cost. The hospital gleamed like a white castle under the evening lights. Ethan's car screeched to a stop at the emergency entrance. He lifted Noah out carefully, even though his son could walk just fine. Everything felt different now. Fragile. Precious. Noah's eyes were huge, taking in every sound. The ambulance siren wailing. People talking on their phones. Shoes squeaking on the floor. A baby crying somewhere far away. His little hands kept touching his ears, like he was making sure they still worked. "It's okay," Ethan whispered, but his own heart was pounding like a drum. They burst through the doors of the neurology department. The same hallway they'd walked down 100 times before. The same pretty paintings on the walls. The same smell of cleaning chemicals and sadness. But nothing felt the same anymore. Mr. Caldwell. Dr. Harrison appeared from his office, smiling his usual calm smile. He was tall and silver-haired, with expensive glasses and a gentle voice that made parents trust him. "You don't have an appointment today. Is everything all right?" "No," Ethan said flatly. "Everything is not all right." Dr. Harrison's smile flickered. "Is Noah having a difficult day?" "Sometimes the stress of his condition." "He can hear," Ethan interrupted. The hallway went quiet. A nurse dropping papers. An intern freezing mid-step. Dr. Harrison's face went completely blank. "I'm sorry," he said carefully. "My son can hear," Ethan repeated, louder this time. "Perfectly. Someone removed 2 objects from his ears, and now he can hear every single sound." Noah nodded eagerly. "I can hear the lights buzzing, Dad. They make a humming sound." The doctor's face turned pale, then red, then pale again. "Mr. Caldwell, that's medically impossible. Your son has a neurological condition that—" "Show me his file," Ethan demanded. "What?" "His medical file. Every test, every scan, every report you've ever written. I want to see all of it, right now." Dr. Harrison's jaw tightened. "Mr. Caldwell, patient files are confidential. There are procedures. He's my son." Ethan's voice boomed through the hallway. "And I've paid you over $400,000 in the last 3 years. Show me the files." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Dr. Harrison turned stiffly and walked toward his office. "Come with me." The office was fancy, with leather chairs and medical certificates covering every wall. Dr. Harrison pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the desk. His hands were shaking slightly. Ethan grabbed the folder and started flipping through pages. Medical terms he didn't understand. Test results that looked scientific and official. Everything seemed normal at first. Then he saw it. A memo, printed on hospital letterhead, dated 2 years ago. Caldwell case, ongoing treatment protocol. The patient presents a unique opportunity for long-term research funding. Initial scan shows standard development with no neurological abnormalities. However, family well profile indicates capacity for extended therapy investment. Recommend continued diagnostic procedures and progressive treatment plans to maximize funding duration. Device implantation has proven effective in maintaining symptomatic presentation. Device implantation. The word swam in front of Ethan's eyes. He read the memo again. Then again. "What does this mean?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Device implantation?" Dr. Harrison's face had turned gray. "Mr. Caldwell, you have to understand, medical research requires funding." "What does it mean?" Ethan roared. The doctor flinched. The particles that were removed from your son's ears. They were placed there during his first examination with us. They're designed to block sound waves without causing permanent damage. They're completely safe, I assure you." Ethan couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "You put those things in my son's ears?" "On purpose." The hospital board approved the research program. Dr. Harrison said quickly, "We needed funding from the neurology wing. Your family's contributions have helped us build state-of-the-art facilities." "You stole my son's hearing for money?" Ethan's hands were shaking so hard the paper scattered across the desk. Noah tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad? Why is the doctor scared?" Ethan looked down at his son, his beautiful, trusting son who had suffered in silence for years, who had missed birthday songs and bedtime stories and the sound of his own laughter because of greed. Because these people in white coats had decided that money was worth more than a child's life. Call security, Ethan said coldly. We're going to need the police. Dr. Harrison stood up suddenly. Mr. Caldwell, please. Think about what you're doing. This hospital serves thousands of children. If you expose this program, the funding will disappear. The research will stop. Other children will suffer. Other children? Ethan's voice was ice. How many other children have you done this to? The doctor's silence was the answer. How many? Ethan demanded. 17, Dr. Harrison whispered. Over the past 5 years. All from wealthy families who could afford long-term care. 17 children. 17 families living in the same nightmare. 17 sets of parents paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to the people who had broken their children on purpose. Ethan pulled out his phone. His hands shook as he dialed 911. But before he could speak, the door opened. Maya walked in. Her feet were still bare and dirty. Her dress was still torn. But somehow, in this fancy office with its leather and certificates, she looked more real than anything else. You came, she said to Ethan. Not a question. A statement. How did you get in here? Dr. Harrison demanded. Security. They let me in, Maya said calmly. I told them I had information about medical fraud. They were very interested. She walked to the desk and picked up the memo Ethan had been reading. Her eyes scanned it quickly. My brother's name was Lucas, she said quietly. He was 8 years old. Smart. Funny. He loved drawing pictures of birds. She looked at Dr. Harrison, and her young face was full of old pain. He came to this hospital with an ear infection. Simple. Easy to fix. But you saw that we were poor. That we couldn't pay much. So you told my mother that Lucas was deaf. That nothing could be done. That treatment would cost too much anyway. Maya's voice cracked. She believed you. She trusted you. And Lucas lived in silence for 3 years, thinking he was broken, thinking something was wrong with him. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her voice stayed strong. Then he died last winter. Pneumonia. At the free clinic. They did an autopsy. They found the devices in his ears, just like Noah's. The clinic doctor told my mother the truth. That Lucas was never deaf. That someone had made him that way. The room was completely silent, except for the buzzing of lights that Noah had mentioned. My mother couldn't afford a lawyer, Maya continued. She couldn't fight a big hospital. But I could do something. I could watch. I could learn. I could find the other families and warn them. She looked at Ethan. You're the first one who listened. Ethan's throat was so tight, he could barely speak. I am sorry. I'm so sorry about your brother. Maya nodded slowly. Sorry doesn't bring him back. But maybe stopping this brings something else. Maybe it means Lucas didn't suffer for nothing. Dr. Harrison tried to slip toward the door, but Ethan grabbed his arm. You're not going anywhere, Ethan said. You're going to sit right here until the police arrive. And then you're going to tell them about every single child, every single family, everything. You can't prove, the doctor started. The memo proves it, Ethan interrupted. Your own words. And I'm going to make sure every news station, every lawyer, every parent in this city sees it. Noah tugged his father's sleeve again. Dad? Is that girl okay? She's crying. Ethan knelt down next to his son. Yes, Noah. She's okay. She's actually very, very brave. Noah walked over to Maya. He was small for 7, and she wasn't much bigger, but he reached up and patted her hand awkwardly. Thank you for helping me here, he said. His new voice was sweet and clear. I'm sorry about your brother. I wish I could have heard him laugh. Maya's face crumpled. She knelt down and hugged Noah tight, this little boy she'd saved. He would have liked you, she whispered. The sound of sirens grew louder outside. Police cars. News vans. Security guards ran past the door, looking confused and worried. Dr. Harrison sank into his chair, his face in his hands. How many others? Ethan asked Maya. How many other hospitals are doing this? I don't know, Maya admitted. Lucas was the only case I knew about for sure. Until I heard about Noah. Your family is famous. Rich, I knew if it was happening to you, it was happening to others. We're going to find them, Ethan promised. Every single one. And we're going to shut this down. With what? Dr. Harrison said bitterly. You're one man. This system is huge. Hospitals need money. Families want miracles. The system works because everyone gets something. Except the children, Maya said fiercely. They don't get anything but silence and pain. Ethan stood up tall. I'm not just one man. I'm a man with resources, with lawyers, with connections. And now, with a reason to use all of it. He looked down at Noah, who was listening to his father's voice with wonder on his face. They took 3 years from my son, Ethan said. They took Lucas's whole life. How much money do you think that's worth, Doctor? Because I'm about to spend every penny I am making sure you, and everyone like you never do this again. The police burst through the door, and in that moment, surrounded by chaos and cameras and questions, Ethan Caldwell made a choice. He could go back to his mansion, protect his reputation, stay quiet and comfortable, or he could fight. He squeezed Noah's hand and looked at Maya's fierce, hopeful face. He chose to fight. 3 months later, the city looked the same, but felt completely different. Ethan stood in front of a massive courthouse, holding Noah's hand. Behind them stood 15 other families, 15 other children who could finally hear, 15 sets of parents who had believed lies for years. And standing quietly at the edge of the crowd was Maya, wearing a new dress but still the same fierce look in her eyes. The news cameras were everywhere. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones pushed forward like hungry birds. Mr. Caldwell, is it true you're suing the entire hospital system? Mr. Caldwell, what do you say to doctors who claim this was legitimate research? Mr. Caldwell, how much money are you seeking in damages? Ethan raised his hand, and the crowd went quiet. Noah squeezed his father's hand tighter. He could hear everything now. Every camera click, every whisper, every breath. And he loved it. 3 months ago, Ethan began, his voice strong and clear, I discovered that my son's deafness was a lie. A deliberate, calculated lie designed to steal money from my family and steal years from my son's life. The cameras flashed brighter. I was angry, Ethan continued. I wanted revenge. I wanted to destroy everyone responsible. He paused and looked down at Noah. But my son taught me something. The first thing he said when he could hear was simple. He said, Dad, just that one word. And in that word, I heard a question. What kind of father will you be now? Several parents in the crowd wiped their eyes. So I made a choice, Ethan said. Not revenge. Justice. Not just for Noah, but for every child who was silenced for profit. He held up a thick stack of papers. These documents prove that Mercy General Hospital, along with 4 other hospitals in the state, were running a program they called Extended Care Research. But it wasn't research. It was fraud. They deliberately caused hearing loss in children from wealthy families, then charged those families hundreds of thousands of dollars for fake treatments that would never work. Gasps rippled through the crowd. 17 children in this city alone. Ethan's voice grew harder. 134 children nationwide. And those are just the ones we found so far. A reporter called out, What about the children from poor families? Ethan's jaw tightened. Those children were told nothing could be done. They were sent home to live in permanent silence because their families couldn't pay for the fake treatments. Children like Lucas Martinez. He gestured to Maya, and the cameras swung toward her. She didn't smile or wave. She just stood there, letting the world see her. Lucas died last year, Ethan said quietly. He was 8 years old. He spent 3 years in silence because doctors decided his life wasn't worth as much as wealthy children's lives. His sister, Maya, is the one who exposed this entire conspiracy. She's the one who saved my son. She's the real hero of this story. Maya's face turned red, but she lifted her chin proudly. Today, Ethan announced, we're filing the largest medical malpractice lawsuit in state history. We're suing for damages. We're demanding criminal charges. And we're asking for every doctor, administrator, and hospital board member involved to be held accountable. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. But Ethan wasn't finished. More importantly, he said, raising his voice, I'm establishing the Lucas Martinez Foundation. Every penny I win from this lawsuit will go into this foundation. Its purpose is simple: free hearing screening for every child in America, real screenings, honest screenings, and free treatment for any child who needs it, regardless of whether their family can pay. He looked directly into the cameras. No child should live in silence because of greed. No parent should have to choose between going bankrupt and helping their child. And no hospital should ever profit from a child suffering again. The applause was deafening now. Even the reporters were clapping. Noah tugged on his father's jacket. Dad, can I say something? Ethan lifted his son up so everyone could see him. The camera zoomed in on Noah's small, serious face. Hi, Noah said, his voice shy but clear. My name is Noah. I couldn't hear for a long time, but now I can hear everything. He paused, thinking hard about what to say next. I can hear birds singing. I can hear my dad's laugh. I can hear when people are happy or sad. I can hear the wind and the rain and music and stories. His voice got stronger. Every kid should get to hear those things. Not just rich kids like me. All kids. Because sounds are beautiful, and everybody deserves beautiful things. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. The lawsuit took 8 months. It was hard and exhausting, and sometimes Ethan wanted to give up. The hospital lawyers were mean and powerful. They said awful things in court. They tried to make Ethan look greedy. They tried to make the children look like they were lying. But Ethan had something they didn't have. He had the truth. And the truth, it turned out, was stronger than money. The jury found the hospitals guilty on every single charge: medical fraud, child endangerment, criminal conspiracy. The damages totaled over $400 million. But more important than the money were the other victories. 12 doctors lost their medical licenses forever. The hospital board members went to prison. New laws were passed requiring independent audits of all children's medical treatments. And the Lucas Martinez Foundation opened its first free clinic in Maya's neighborhood, in a building painted bright blue with pictures of birds on the walls. On opening day, Ethan, Noah, and Maya stood together cutting the ribbon. Your brother would be proud, Ethan told Maya. Maya looked up at the painted birds and smiled, really smiled, for the first time since Ethan had met her. I think he can see this, she said softly. Wherever he is, I think he knows. Noah took her hand. I know he does, and I bet he can hear better than anyone now. The three of them walked into the clinic together. Inside, dozens of children waited with their families. Poor families, immigrant families, families who had been told for years that they couldn't afford help. Now help was free. Now silence could be broken. Now listening mattered more than money. That night, back at the mansion, Noah sat by the fountain again. But this time, everything was different. He could hear the water splashing. He could hear the wind in the trees. He could hear his father's footsteps approaching. Dad, Noah asked, why did those doctors do such a bad thing? Ethan sat down next to his son. It was a hard question, but Noah deserved a real answer. Because they forgot something important. Ethan said, they forgot that money isn't more important than people. They forgot that being a doctor means helping, not hurting. They forgot to listen with their hearts instead of just their ears. Noah thought about this. Maya didn't forget. No, Ethan agreed. Maya remembered what matters most. Even when she had nothing, she knew that helping others was more important than helping herself. Is that why you gave her family money? Noah asked. Ethan nodded. I offered, but she only accepted enough for her mother to go to nursing school. She said her mom wants to be the kind of nurse who really helps people. That's good, Noah said. Then, Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Are there other kids who need help? Not just with hearing, but with other things. Ethan's heart swelled with pride. Yes, there are lots of kids who need help. Can we help them too? Noah asked, like we help the deaf kids. Ethan pulled his son close. Yes, we can, and we will. They sat together by the fountain, listening to the water, listening to each other, listening to the world. And somewhere across the city, in a small apartment with peeling paint, Maya sat with her mother, listening to the same sounds. They didn't have a fountain or a mansion or fancy cars, but they had something more valuable. They had their voices, their truth, their power to change things. Maya looked at the picture of Lucas on the wall, her brother with his bright smile and his bird drawings. "We did it," she whispered. "We made them listen." And in the silence that followed, it almost felt like Lucas was whispering back, "I know. Thank you." The next morning, Ethan woke up to Noah shaking his shoulder excitedly. "Dad, Dad, wake up." "What is it?" Ethan mumbled, still half asleep. "Listen," Noah said, pulling his father to the window. Outside, dozens of birds were singing in the trees. A beautiful morning chorus. "Aren't they beautiful?" Noah breathed. "I never knew mornings sounded like this." Ethan listened, really listened, not just to the birds, but to his son's joy, to the second chance they'd been given, to the promise of a better future. "Yes," he said, "they're beautiful." And they were. Because the most beautiful sound in the world isn't just music or laughter, or even your child's voice saying, "I love you." The most beautiful sound is the sound of truth being spoken, the sound of justice being done, the sound of silence being broken forever. So what do you think? Should more wealthy people use their money to fight corruption like Ethan did? Should Maya's family have accepted more help? And what about the doctors? Do you think prison was enough punishment, or should they have faced something worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This story is based on the idea that sometimes the people we trust the most, doctors, hospitals, experts, might not always have our best interests at heart. It reminds us to always ask questions, to look closer, and to never stop fighting for what's right. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. And subscribe for more powerful true-to-life stories about courage, justice, and the people who refuse to stay silent in the face of wrong. Remember, your voice matters. Your truth matters. And sometimes, one person speaking up can change everything. See you in the next story.